Okay, first news. Teenager who beheaded French teacher is given a hero's funeral in Chechnya. Recent footage shows mourners at the funeral of 18-year-old Abdullakh Anzorov in his native village of Shalazi in Russia. Around 200 people attended the funeral in freezing conditions, with local news reporting that Azorov had been buried, quote-unquote, with honors. Video footage showed mourners chanting Allahu Akbar as they walked alongside his coffin. The video included the message, "The Lion of Islam has arrived to native soil today and returned to the soil. No one but Allah has strength and power," end quote. Azorov was shot dead by police while they were attempting to apprehend him for the murder of French civics teacher Samuel Paty. His body was returned from France on December 6th and carried through the village by mourners in the Urus-Martanovsky district.
This is crazy. This is the funeral of the person that murdered Samuel Paty.
Yes. He was...
And these people are celebrating him.
Yeah.
The guy that beheaded... The guy that beheaded the teacher in France simply for showing a cartoon to the students while asking the students that if they're Muslim, they're allowed to leave the class so that they're not offended. That guy who was beheaded. Okay, so guys, when they tell you like, it's true that the vast majority of Muslims would never do such a thing. And it's true that this person was represents a fringe group of Muslims that would be able to be this violent. Okay. However, it's also true that while his action gains the support and celebration of many Muslims. Okay, I'm not gonna say most. Okay, I'm not gonna say the majority, but I'm gonna say millions. Okay, it's safe to say millions and millions of Muslims, and that's a problem. Okay, and if you're a Muslim that is peaceful, that is not endorsing such behavior, you should not deny that the fact that this is not a big problem in the Muslim community. Okay, be honest and say, yes, I don't endorse this. I think this is violent, but we have a problem in the Muslim community. It's not a small problem. It's a huge problem. Like if you're a Muslim and you deny the fact that there are millions of Muslims in Pakistan, for example, right? In Saudi Arabia, in Bangladesh, that think the person that murdered Samuel Paty was in the right, and he's a hero, and he was martyred, and now he's in heaven. If you deny that that's a real thing and that there are not millions of Muslims who agree with that, then you're either like trying to lie to people for the sake of Islam, for the sake of promoting Islam, and then therefore you're a scumbag, or you're just so out of touch with reality that you're also part of the problem. Even though you're a peaceful Muslim who doesn't encourage this, you're also part of the problem. That if you deny this reality. What do you guys think about this?
Rivka, you should go first.
Okay, sorry, I was still having connection problems. Well, first of all, so I don't understand why they even sent him back there. I guess maybe that's their protocol in France. So, I don't know. But yeah, I find it abhorrent. I find it really sad that there's people that are celebrating this murderer. I don't find it unusual that he would have people go to his funeral. I mean, his family or whatever. But the fact that they were chanting and calling him a lion of Islam and all these things, giving him this praise for this absolutely heinous behavior is it's just reprehensible. And I agree with Armin, if that people are against this kind of thing, then they need to make it clear to the rest of the world that they're against this, that they condemn the murder of Samuel Paty, they condemn the folks that are holding him up as a hero, the reverence that people seem to have for these terrorists. All of that needs to be clearly condemned in a very loud voice by a vast majority of the public who are believers in Islam, because we're not hearing such a really vehement condemnation over and over and over again. We're hearing a lot of yes buts, or, you know, well, he shouldn't have done that, or, you know, France was wearing a short skirt kind of thing, you know. So, and I do believe that Armin's correct. You know, that the majority of Muslims, the majority of believers in the world aren't going to murder someone. But it needs to be made clear to everyone that they disavow this behavior. And so far, we haven't seen this, you know, large scale ummah disavowing of this type of actions.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, we saw numerous countries launch boycotts of French goods altogether because French President Emmanuel Macron said, no, we're not backing down. We're going to defend our Enlightenment values. And, you know, the conversation got very muddied. People were saying, oh, Macron is insulting Islam. He was like, no, he is defending the right to produce and display these cartoons, which is completely different. But what do you guys think about, because this is kind of, I don't know if this is an exclusively quote unquote woke argument, but there are many people who say, like, Muslims do not have to apologize for this. Muslims don't have to speak out against this because the majority are not people who undertake this. If you say that I just because I come from this group and someone else that comes from this group did this thing, and now I'm somehow seen as like responsible for it, and I have to apologize for it or condemn it every single time it happens, like, you're just promoting collective guilt. So what do you guys think about that argument?
I agree with that. I don't think that you are responsible for the actions of other Muslims just because you happen to be associated with them. I don't think, like, for example, it's a responsible, like, if an atheist does something wrong, you can't be like, oh, you're an atheist too, this atheist did something wrong, call it out, call it out, call it out. Like, why do I have to call it out? I mean, there's a look. Do I have to, like, make sure, like, what about people? Do I need to go call out every action by, like, what if somebody believed in free speech and I'm a free speech activist, and now somebody believes in free speech does something crazy? Do I need to be like, I have to go out and make sure, like, every time somebody, no, like, it's like, most Muslims, for example, especially if you're not even an activist, right? If you're a Muslim and you're just like not even an activist and you're just like going by, you're worrying about your career and you're just living your life, you like, I can't be like, hey, another Muslim did something wrong, call it out, call it out, call it out. Like, what the hell does that got to do me? Why do I have to call it out? Of course I'm gonna get, like, no. Okay, so what I was saying earlier was they shouldn't be excusing it, or if they're misinformed about how common such attitudes are, then they're delusional. Okay. But just because if they're aware of it and they don't decide not to call it out, maybe they're passionate about some other thing in the world. They're not just because you're Muslim, that doesn't mean you have to be passionate about calling out what other Muslims are doing in the world. What kind of a standard is that, right? That's ridiculous, right? But if you're not going out, the people who I'm calling out are Muslims who come and say, like, hey, this is not a big problem. Then no, shut the F off. This is a big problem. This is a huge problem. Don't lie or if you're not lying, then you're extremely misinformed, and you're probably a problem. But if you're aware of it, if you know about it, and you decide, I'm not going to call it that, because why am I being blamed for something I didn't do? Like, why do I have to call it that? Like, that's fair. I agree with that. But go, Rivka wants to say something.
Okay, so I have 2 points to make on this. So one, it's the responsibility, I believe, of the people who are speaking for Muslims in general, whether that be imams, Muslim groups, Muslim advocacy groups. Those people have taken on the role of speaking for Muslims, so they do have the responsibility of saying something about this, because they're in the news all the time, saying, this isn't Islam, or Islamophobia, or pointing fingers. So they are already taking on this role. Number one. Number two, imams, that's part of their responsibility as being clergy, being part of the ummah, being people who are leading and helping to bring others into the fold of peaceful religion, or helping people not to become radicalized, whatever their role they see themselves with regard to their congregation, in terms of how they're going to make it known that they don't agree with this behavior and they're disavowing it. So that's one. Then two, yes, I don't think that every Muslim walking down the street has to stop whatever they're doing and get on, social media, or stand on the street corner, or, tap someone on the shoulder and say, hey, I'm a Muslim and I don't think this is right. No. But when I say they need to call it out and disavow it at large, I'm talking about the people that already are making statements publicly already. There's a vast number of people who are on Twitter, on Facebook, who are writing articles, who are doing radio shows or podcasts, who are standing, in Free Speech Corner in England, who are doing all kinds of things, advocating, speaking, talking about Islam, talking about religion, talking about what they perceive Islam's role is, or how Muslims are treated, or this situation. So all of those people have already put themselves into the public sphere, have already made an acknowledgement about this issue. Those are the people I'm talking about. Your average person who hasn't bothered to make a statement about this, or doesn't have a radio show, or hasn't produced content on it, it's not their responsibility to disavow the actions of every single person. But there's also something to be said for trying to make it known within your community to other people how you feel about this, because what's happening is this radicalization in these communities. So if you're not willing to acknowledge it, to discuss it, or to even say anything about it, even amongst yourselves, it's only going to keep festering and metastasizing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more fair to hold key stakeholders and leaders more accountable to speak out against these things than just your average everyday believer. Shaif Musa is saying, don't forget about the issue of Taqiyya in Islam. Shaif, most Muslims don't even know what Taqiyya is.
Yeah. It's not as big of a problem among average Muslims as you think it is. And even when Muslims who do know about it, their understanding of it is basically the honest. Okay, Islam has a lot of problems.
Taqiyya is not one of them.
Taqiyya is not really one of them. It's a tiny bit of a problem, and most of the time, even when I understand that it's more common in Shia Islam than Sunni Islam, but Sunni Islam also has versions of it. But it's basically like a white lie, right? Like if somebody's going to kill you and you have to say, I believe it's self-defense. It's not that big of a problem. People have exaggerated how big of an issue that is. I do want to also say that I agree with Rivka. However, the real responsibility of imams is to stop being imams and spreading poison and lies. Don't be an imam. Okay, but I know I'm just being pedantic.
But SM, thank you for the £2 super chat. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Rivka, yes.
Oh, I just want to address the Taqiyya thing really quickly. So people talk about it amongst Islam, but it's actually something that almost everybody does on a wide scale. It's like preference falsification, right? So if you have a large group that it's socially acceptable to say one thing, or you know that maybe you could be in trouble, or somebody could hurt you, or you could lose your job, or whatever. A lot of people do this on a lot of levels. So I'm agreeing with Armin in the fact that if you're going to talk about the issues, it's pretty small, and it's something that a lot of groups do in a lot of ways, whether it's a political group, a religious group, a cultural or social group. People do this preference falsification thing all the time. So,
yeah, and here we have an ex-Muslim saying, "What is Taqiyya?"
Like, right. So there you go.
They don't even know what Taqiyya is until they leave Islam. Like,
yeah, I didn't know. I learned about Taqiyya after I left Islam, not while I was a Muslim. And I don't know
like someone who was using Taqiyya would say.
I mean, technically, I think there was some reference to it somewhere in our class. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure most people have no.
Wait, sorry, Armin. Right on cue, we have Hindutva Power saying, "Atheist Republic defending Islam. We know the truth about Taqiyya. Atheist Republic should change its name to Islamic Republic." So we are now doing Taqiyya.
Yeah, we are, guys. This is beautiful. This is beautiful because this is exactly the example.
You are so predictable. You have no idea.
This is exactly the line of reasoning that you expect from Hindutva people. This is so stereotypical Hindutva. Everything, guys, for the people who don't know what Taqiyya is, hold on, bring it back. This is like the reason why, if we think like the accusations of Taqiyya, this is what we're responding to. Like, basically, the Hindutva or a lot of also anti-Muslim, not anti-Islam, but anti-Muslim bigots, everything they don't like is Taqiyya. You know how, for example, for a lot of Muslims, everything they don't like, it must be Zionism, right? Or, right, for a lot of Hindutva and anti-Muslim bigots, everything they don't like is Taqiyya. Taqiyya. Everyone is doing Taqiyya. But this is beautiful. This is so beautiful because this is like, you know, if you had to guess who would comment something like this here today, it would have been somebody with the username Hindutva Power.
Oh, of course. No, and it also means pillow in Urdu. So Hussein is saying, I use two taqiyas when I sleep.
in Urdu actually means pillows. Pillows. Okay, that's good. All right. Hold on. Let's actually. that's funny.
Deepak Personified. I never seem to quite to find a good firm taqiyya.
Oh my god, I love that shit.
Nice one.
Yeah. All right, let me just read the top comments. The top comment in the news is saying, hopefully France learned their lesson and just stop letting anybody into their country. Oof. Nope. Nope. That's not the first of all. Okay. Not anybody into their country. You mean, okay, maybe they should have better screening criteria, more, look at the processes that they have. Oh, maybe actually that's what they mean. Stop letting anybody to. No, actually, maybe I agree with this. Okay, maybe I just have to read it properly. So maybe they're saying don't let everyone in your country. Maybe have like a screening criteria, but because I don't think this person is saying that just stop immigration as a whole, right? I'm just going to be charitable to this person. I'm going to say like don't just let anybody in your country. Like have a better screening criteria. In that way, if I read it that way, I can endorse this. Rivka wants to say something.
I'm not sure that this person, screening process, fine, but I'm not sure they understand truly the nature of some of the radicalization in France. This particular guy who murdered Samuel Paty happened to be from Chechnya, but a large number of the terrorists in previous
Rivka,
attacks.
can you not use that word, please?
Oh,
it's too
sorry,
late. It's too late now. It's too late now, but it's okay.
Terry's
yes.
have in previous Terry attacks have been French citizens, second, third generation French citizens. So it's not a matter of letting people in. These people were born there. And that's the case in several other countries in Europe as well. So the question then becomes, what's happened between the first generation and the second and third generation that has led to this kind of radicalization? Because a lot of the parents wanted to come to Europe, wanted the freedom and the opportunities or whatever they saw, or escaping something from wherever their home country was. And now we have this gap in terms of extremism. Often the children seem to be more extreme than the parents. So that is an issue in addition to some of the migrant issues that are happening.
I just want to remind you guys that if we use these words, even if we correct it later, it's already going to hit the algorithm anyway.
And I'm sorry, it's my fault.
That's okay. But Susanna, go
on. Well, I agree and disagree with you, Rivka. Like, the homegrown is a huge problem, but in the three most recent, most widely internationally recognized cases of the beheading of Samuel Paty, shortly after, within the span of 2 weeks, there was a beheading, and three people were murdered in the cathedral in Nice.
And that guy was from Tunisia, yeah.
And then 3 weeks prior, there was the guy from Pakistan who took a meat cleaver to two people who he assumed to work for Charlie Hebdo, and they didn't. All three of those assailants were refugees.
Right, and I said Terry previous. The larger previous Terrys, and a lot of the most attacks all over Europe tended to be. So we have both issues going on, is the point. To your point that yes, these most recent ones were all from outside of France coming in, immigrating in, or being migrants or refugees, versus a lot of the homegrown as well.
Yeah.
So we've got two problems. That's all.
Deborah is saying Terry is the new Karen.
Okay, Don is asking, what does a Chechen hero's funeral look like? Do we have anything to compare it to? How do we differentiate it from any other rural Chechen funeral? One might expect a turnout of around 200 from a village, or okay, maybe like shouting "Lion of Allah" and Allahu Akbar and celebrating the person and calling him a hero. I think that's a big giveaway, right?
Literally lionizing them.
Yeah, literally.
Calling them a lion of Islam is a pretty good tell.
Yeah.
And subscribe! Everyone! Every single one of you is watching! Subscribe! Do it now! Do it! Do it now!